The airplane cabin buzzed with the usual pre-flight chatter. Parents wrestled with children's carry-ons, passengers fidgeted with seatbelts, and flight attendants made their rounds offering drinks and assistance. Amid this ordinary scene sat Emily Carter, a seemingly unremarkable teenage girl in seat 12F, her posture calm, her gaze focused out the window. To anyone else, she appeared like just another kid on a flight, carrying a small backpack and a notebook. But Emily's calm demeanor and quiet confidence suggested something far more profound beneath the surface. Passengers nearby whispered among themselves. "She looks so young. I wonder where she's headed," a man said, scrolling on his phone. "She probably just plays video games or reads books the whole flight," a teen remarked to her friend, smirking. Emily didn't respond. She had long ago learned that first impressions were rarely accurate. She didn't need to prove herself verbally. Her actions and presence would do that in due time. She adjusted in her seat and opened her notebook, filled with technical notes, flight formations, and aerial schematics. Her fingers traced the pages, lightly as she reviewed mission drills she had studied for years. Even at her age, Emily had already accumulated extensive flight training experience, knowledge that far exceeded her appearance. Nearby, a flight attendant approached. "Would you like anything before takeoff?" she asked politely. "Just water, thank you," Emily replied softly, her voice calm but firm, carrying a subtle authority beyond her years. The passengers who had been whispering earlier laughed quietly. "Look at her, sitting there like she knows everything," one muttered to their companion. "She's just a kid." Emily's eyes shifted briefly to the murmuring teens. She didn't acknowledge their laughter. In her world, the judgments of those untrained in discipline and skill were inconsequential. As the plane reached cruising altitude, a sudden roar outside the windows turned every head. Two F-22 fighter jets appeared in formation, flying parallel to the aircraft. Their precision was flawless, each movement sharp and calculated. The cabin erupted in astonishment. Phones were raised, passengers gasped, and whispers of disbelief spread. "Are those fighter jets?" a man asked, wide-eyed. Emily remained calm, her hand lifting slightly to return the salute of the lead jet's pilot. Her gesture was precise, confident, and commanding, executed with the same discipline instilled in her through years of training. The teen who had mocked her now stared in shock. "Wait, what? Why are they saluting her?" Rachel, sitting nearby and quietly observing Emily, whispered, "They recognize her. She's the one they trained under. Or she's her legend in the making." Emily didn't speak. She had long learned that actions carried far more weight than words, and the jets outside were already conveying the message she didn't need to articulate. Respect was due, regardless of appearance. Passengers began murmuring amongst themselves, trying to understand what was happening. "Who is she?" a woman whispered. I think she's called Valkyrie," another replied hesitantly. "I've read about her. She's young but trained in advanced aerial maneuvers." Emily's mind stayed focused. The jets performed rolls, loops, and tight formation maneuvers with flawless execution. This wasn't a random display of skill. It was a precise, coordinated acknowledgement of Emily's expertise and authority. Her call sign had been enough to command the attention of veteran pilots flying supersonic fighters. The flight attendant approached again, this time with wide eyes. "Is she really that skilled?" she asked quietly to her coworker. "Yes," the coworker replied, barely able to contain disbelief. "She's the youngest pilot to ever qualify for these advanced exercises. They're performing this for her." Emily flipped through her notebook briefly, pointing out formations to Rachel in whispered explanation. "They're maintaining three-point alignment," she said softly. Wind vectors adjusted perfectly. Timing, speed, angle, flawless. Passengers leaned closer to the window, trying to catch a better view. Phones and cameras came out in a frenzy. No one had expected a teenager to command such respect, much less display it through precision aerial coordination. Minutes passed and the jets continued their synchronized maneuvers. Emily's calm authority was palpable, even in her seat. She didn't need to shout or demand attention. The respect and acknowledgement from the pilots outside were more powerful than any words could be. A young girl sitting across the aisle asked quietly, "Are they really saluting her?" "Yes," Emily said softly, her eyes fixed on the jets. "They salute because she has earned it. Through skill, discipline, and leadership, she commands their respect. Appearances can be deceiving. Mastery and earned trust are what truly matter." Passengers who had previously laughed now watched in stunned silence, unable to ignore the scene unfolding outside. The sky itself had become a stage for Emily's authority. Rachel whispered beside her, "I can't believe people doubted you." "Even the pilots out there are acknowledging you without hesitation." Emily allowed herself a faint smile. "They know what skill and discipline look like. The world doesn't need me to prove myself, only to act with integrity. Recognition comes naturally when it is deserved." The lead F-22 performed a loop and saluted once again. Emily returned the salute instinctively. Phones captured the moment, passengers gasped, and whispers of awe spread. One of the teens who had mocked her earlier said under his breath, She's incredible." "Yes," Emily replied softly. Incredible is what happens when preparation, skill, and confidence meet opportunity. The plane continued its flight, and the jets maintained formation, performing increasingly complex maneuvers. Passengers remained mesmerized, many silently wishing they could understand the discipline behind such perfection. Emily had already anticipated every movement. She had trained pilots to perform these formations with exactitude, and now she witnessed their flawless execution. The captain's voice came over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated. You are witnessing a rare display of precision and respect from Air Force pilots. The passenger in 12F is recognized for her extraordinary skill and leadership." Emily simply returned her notebook to her bag, her composure unshaken. Recognition was not her goal. Mastery, impact, and legacy were. As the jets finally peeled away, passengers remained in awe, their perception of the girl in 12F forever transformed. She had demonstrated authority, skill, and earned respect without needing to speak loudly or demand attention. The hum of the airplane engines was a constant backdrop, but the real spectacle was outside the window. Emily Carter, sitting in seat 12F, kept her calm demeanor as she observed the two F-22 fighter jets maintaining perfect formation. Every twist, roll, and synchronized maneuver executed by the pilots spoke volumes about the respect they held for her. Passengers were no longer whispering casually. Phones were raised, cameras recording, and eyes wide with disbelief. "Are those fighter jets?" a man whispered to his wife, pointing toward the window. "Yes," she replied, equally stunned. "And they're saluting her?" Emily allowed herself a slight, composed smile. She didn't need to explain. The jets and their pilots were speaking on her behalf. Her call sign, Valkyrie, was enough, a name that carried the weight of discipline, skill, and countless hours of training. Rachel, sitting beside her, leaned over and whispered, "You're not just a teenager. You've become a living legend to them." Emily nodded lightly. Legends are not born, they are created. Skill, discipline, and trust are earned over time. Recognition is a natural consequence of mastery, not the goal. A group of teens in the row behind them, who had earlier laughed at her, now whispered in disbelief, "Did you see that salute?" She trained them?" "Yes," Emily said softly, her eyes still on the jets. "Every maneuver, every roll, every formation you see outside is the result of training and leadership I provided. They respect precision and mastery because it saves lives and ensures mission success." The flight attendant approached once more, her eyes wide. "I've never witnessed anything like this," she whispered. "Are they really performing these maneuvers just for her?" Emily glanced at her, calm and composed. "Not just for me. They follow my guidance because they trust the training and discipline I instilled. Respect is mutual, it is not given lightly." The woman's jaw dropped slightly. She's just sitting there. "And they're all following her." Emily's gaze returned to the sky. "Authority is silent. Recognition is earned. Mastery is demonstrated in action, not appearance." Minutes passed, and the jets executed increasingly complex maneuvers. Two of them split off into synchronized loops, banking perfectly and rejoining formation without a hint of error. Emily's knowledge of flight dynamics and vector calculations allowed her to anticipate every movement. Her years of training had taught her to read aerial formations like a book. Rachel whispered again. "It's incredible. You don't even need to move a finger for them to respond perfectly." Emily smiled faintly. "It's not about me moving. It's about preparation, precision, and trust. Every action they perform reflects hours of guidance and discipline, not my presence alone." The passengers leaned closer to the windows, craning their necks to see the jets. Phones and cameras came out as people attempted to capture the scene. One young boy, sitting near the window, whispered, "I don't understand. How can someone so young command pilots like that?" Emily turned to him briefly. "Age is irrelevant. Skill, discipline, and leadership are what matter. Those pilots salute because they understand and respect the mastery I've demonstrated. Recognition comes naturally when it is deserved." The boy nodded slowly, absorbing the lesson without fully understanding its depth. The lead F-22 pilot performed a slow roll, keeping perfect alignment with the plane. Emily instinctively returned the salute, precise and confident. The gesture, small but commanding, elicited gasps from the passengers. Cameras clicked and murmurs of awe filled the cabin. One of the teens who had mocked her earlier muttered, "She's incredible." "Yes," Emily said softly. "Incredible is simply what happens when preparation meets opportunity and skill. Respect is earned, not assumed." The plane continued its flight, and the F-22s maintained formation. Emily's mind wandered briefly to her journey. From her first days in the Air Force, she had been underestimated because of her age and size. Yet her dedication, discipline, and talent quickly set her apart. She had been one of the youngest pilots to qualify for advanced aerial maneuvers, and her call sign, Valkyrie, became a symbol of precision, leadership, and excellence. Now, even passengers who had dismissed her earlier were witnessing firsthand the authority she commanded, not through words, but through action. Rachel whispered, "Do you realize how many people are recording this? They'll be sharing it everywhere." Emily remained calm. "I don't seek attention. Recognition is secondary. What matters is the demonstration of skill, precision, and leadership. The pilots outside are the ones proving it, not me." The jets performed a synchronized loop, glinting metallically as they banked in perfect alignment with the plane. The passengers gasped collectively, leaning closer to the windows. "A woman," in the aisle whispered. "She doesn't even look like someone who could do this. And yet she clearly can." "Yes," Emily said, "appearances are misleading. True mastery and respect are revealed through action, not first impressions." As the plane approached its cruising altitude, the F-22s executed a final complex maneuver. Two jets split in opposite directions, performed a coordinated roll, and rejoined formation with flawless precision. The lead jet hovered in alignment with Emily's window and saluted. Emily returned the salute calmly. The passengers erupted in applause, some standing, some filming, others simply frozen in awe. Rachel whispered, "You've completely changed everyone's perception of you." Emily replied softly, "Perception changes when skill and discipline speak louder than appearances. This is not about me being noticed. It is about respect earned through mastery." The captain's voice came over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, as we prepare for the descent, please take note of the rare demonstration of precision and respect by Air Force pilots for the passenger in seat 12F. This is an extraordinary acknowledgement of skill, leadership, and earned trust." Emily returned her notebook to her bag, calm and composed. The acknowledgement from the pilots outside was all that mattered. She had earned it through dedication, training, and mastery, not by seeking approval. As the F-22s peeled away, passengers remained in awe. The girl in 12F had revealed her true authority, proving that respect is earned and mastery cannot be ignored, no matter one's age. The hum of the airplane cabin was now secondary to the awe outside the windows. Emily Carter, sitting quietly in seat 12F, observed the synchronized maneuvers of the F-22 fighter jets, her calm expression betraying no hint of nerves. every pilot executing each twist, roll, and loop was performing precisely as she had trained them. Her call sign, Valkyrie, had already made its impact. Passengers were captivated. Phones raised, eyes wide, whispers of disbelief filling the aisles. Are they actually saluting her? One man murmured. Yes, whispered a woman beside him. I think they're recognizing her. That kid is a legend. Emily remained composed, her gaze focused, her fingers lightly tracing her notebook. Though young in appearance, her years of rigorous training and flight experience made her presence commanding. This wasn't merely a display of aerial skill. It was a living testament to her leadership, precision, and earned respect. Rachel, seated next to her, whispered in astonishment, "You're barely recognized as a passenger, yet the pilots outside treat you like a commander." It's incredible. Emily's lips curved slightly. Leadership is proven through action, not appearances. Respect is earned through discipline, skill, and trust. Those outside know this because they've been trained to follow it. A group of teenagers behind them, who had earlier laughed at her, now sat stunned. One whispered to his friend, She trained them? They're obeying her signals like she's their commander." "Yes," Emily replied softly. "What you see is the product of preparation and mastery. Authority is not about age or appearance. It is about knowledge, discipline, and the ability to lead effectively." The flight attendant, who had been observing silently, approached. I've never seen anything like this," she whispered. "Are those jets really responding to a teenager?" Emily glanced at her, calm and assured. "They respond to training, precision, and trust. My age doesn't matter. My ability to lead and instruct does. Respect follows naturally when it is deserved." The woman's eyes widened. "So she's actually commanding them?" "Yes," Emily replied. "They execute every maneuver perfectly because they understand the discipline behind it and they trust it implicitly. That trust is what commands respect." Outside, the F-22s performed a series of increasingly complex formations. Two jets split off into opposing loops, banking perfectly, then rejoining formation with seamless precision. Emily anticipated each movement, her training and knowledge allowing her to calculate vectors, wind, and timing effortlessly. Passengers craned their necks, some leaning closer to the windows. Phones clicked and videos recorded as people attempted to capture the spectacle. One young boy, mesmerized, asked, How can someone so young do this?" Emily turned her gaze to him. "It is not about age. Mastery, discipline, and trust are the factors that command attention. These pilots salute me because I have trained them, and they respect skill, not appearances." Rachel whispered again, "I can't believe they're following every move you've ever taught them. It's like you're controlling the sky itself." Emily's expression remained calm. "It is not about control. It is about guidance, trust, and preparation. Leadership is demonstrated through results and consistency. They follow because they know the execution is flawless." The lead F-22 performed a slow roll, perfectly aligned with the airplane window, and saluted. Emily returned the salute with confidence. The gesture, simple but commanding, left the passengers in awe. Cameras clicked rapidly, capturing the moment of mutual respect between pilot and trainee. The teen who had mocked her earlier muttered under his breath, "She's incredible." "Yes," Emily said softly, "incredible is the result of preparation, persistence, and dedication. True authority is revealed through action, not words." Minutes passed, and the jets continued their synchronized maneuvers. Emily's mind wandered briefly to her journey. She remembered the countless hours in flight simulators, early mornings practicing maneuvers, and the rigorous demands of her instructors. She had earned the call sign Valkyrie for her ability to lead in high-pressure missions, make split-second decisions, and guide pilots through impossible scenarios. Now, her former trainees demonstrated her guidance flawlessly. A living tribute to her legacy, the passengers were leaning forward, captivated by the display. A woman whispered, "I never would have guessed. She looks so young, but she's commanding respect from pilots like that." Yes, Emily said calmly. Respect is earned, not assumed. Appearance is irrelevant. Mastery and trust are what truly matter. The jets performed another intricate maneuver, splitting into 4 paths and forming a diamond before converging back into a perfect line. Emily's hand lifted in return, signaling acknowledgement. The passengers gasped, some clapping quietly, others frozen in amazement. Rachel leaned closer. Do you realize how much everyone is recording this? They'll share it everywhere. Emily allowed herself a faint smile. Recognition is not the goal. Mastery, skill, and the trust of those who follow your guidance are what matter. The rest is beyond my control. The lead F-22 performed a final synchronized loop before saluting once more. Emily returned the salute with calm precision. The passengers erupted into applause, some standing, some clapping, others silently acknowledging the extraordinary moment. The captain's voice came over the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, we are witnessing a rare display of precision and respect by Air Force pilots for the passenger in seat 12F. This is an extraordinary acknowledgement of skill, leadership, and earned trust. Emily returned her notebook to her bag, calm and composed. The recognition from the pilots outside was all that mattered. She had earned it through dedication, training, and mastery, not by seeking approval. As the F-22s peeled away, the passengers remained in awe, their perception of the girl in 12F forever transformed. Emily had proven that authority, respect, and skill are not determined by age, but by dedication, mastery, and earned trust. The roar of the F-22 engines outside the airplane window dominated the cabin, but Emily Carter remained perfectly composed in seat 12F. Passengers leaned forward in awe, their whispers muted by the intensity of the moment, every pilot flying. Those jets executed maneuvers with flawless precision, their formation perfectly aligned with the commercial plane. To anyone else, it would have looked like magic. To Emily, it was the culmination of years of training, discipline, and earned respect. Rachel, sitting beside her, whispered in disbelief. They're following every instruction you've ever given them, aren't they? Emily's eyes remained fixed on the jets outside. They follow because they trust in the training, the discipline, and the principles that guide them. Leadership isn't declared, it is demonstrated. Passengers were captivated. Phones came out, videos recorded, and parents pointed out the incredible display to their children. Look, one mother said, she's not just a kid. That girl commands fighter pilots. The teens who had earlier mocked her now sat in stunned silence, eyes wide, mouths slightly agape. One whispered, I can't believe it. They're saluting her like she's their commander. Yes, Emily replied softly. Skill and trust command respect, not age or appearance. That is why they respond with such precision. That is what leadership looks like in action. The lead F-22 performed a perfect vertical climb, disappearing momentarily into the clouds before returning in flawless alignment with the plane. Another jet executed a tight roll, banking in near impossible angles, and a third formed a loop alongside it. Each movement was precise, calculated, and executed without hesitation. Emily's gaze was steady, almost meditative. She had spent countless hours in simulators, on training flights, and under the watchful eyes of instructors. Every maneuver she now observed was a reflection of her own expertise and discipline, brought to life by the pilots she had trained. A young boy sitting across the aisle whispered in awe, Are they really listening to her? Emily glanced at him with a faint smile. Not to me. They are following the principles and discipline I have taught them. Respect is earned through mastery, consistency, and trust. That is what commands their attention. Rachel nudged her gently. You're showing everyone in this cabin what leadership truly is. And they're finally realizing it. Emily's eyes softened slightly. It isn't about realization. It is about action. Actions speak louder than words. What matters is that respect and trust are recognized, not just assumed. The cabin remained captivated as the jets performed a synchronized split maneuver. 2 jets peeled away in perfect unison, executing a coordinated roll before converging back into formation. Emily's training allowed her to anticipate every vector, every adjustment for wind, speed, and trajectory. She traced the patterns in her mind effortlessly, a master observing her students performing flawlessly. Passengers whispered to one another, trying to comprehend the spectacle. "She's barely speaking." "And yet they obey every move," one man said. "Yes," Emily replied softly. "Leadership is reflected in results, not volume. You follow when trust and mastery are demonstrated. That is why they respond to me without question." The lead F-22 hovered momentarily, perfectly aligned with the plane window. The pilot saluted Emily through the cockpit, a precise, disciplined gesture that spoke volumes. Emily returned the salute with equal precision. The passengers gasped, some clapping quietly, others frozen in awe. Cameras clicked and phones recorded every second, Rachel whispered. "I can't believe the level of respect they have for you. Even the pilots recognize your authority completely." Emily nodded. "Authority is not given lightly. It is earned through dedication, mastery, and consistency. The salute is not for me personally, but for the discipline and training that made it possible." The teens who had mocked her earlier now muttered under their breath. She really is the Valkyrie, isn't she?" "Yes," Emily said softly. "That call sign represents precision, leadership, and the trust earned through relentless practice. It is not a name. It is a standard." Minutes passed as the F-22s executed a series of increasingly complex aerial maneuvers. Two jets formed a diamond formation, rolling in synchronization while the lead jet performed a controlled loop. The performance was flawless, a testament to years of preparation, skill, and discipline. Passengers leaned closer to the windows, capturing every moment on video, their expressions ranging from disbelief to admiration. Emily's calm presence contrasted the excitement around her. She didn't need applause. The pilots outside were demonstrating her authority and mastery in real time. A young woman seated near Emily whispered, "I thought she was just a passenger. But now I see she's commanding the sky." "Yes," Emily said softly, "appearances are often misleading. Mastery and earned respect are revealed through action, not first impressions." The lead F-22 performed one final loop before hovering in alignment with Emily's window and saluting once again. Emily returned the salute, her posture calm, confident, and commanding. The passengers erupted in applause, some standing, some clapping quietly, others silent but awed. The captain's voice came over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated. You are witnessing a rare demonstration of precision and respect from Air Force pilots for the passenger in seat 12F. This is an extraordinary acknowledgement of skill, leadership, and earned trust." Emily returned her notebook to her bag, her composure unwavering. The acknowledgement from the pilots outside was all that mattered. She had earned it through training, discipline, and mastery, not through seeking attention or approval. As the F-22s peeled away, passengers remained captivated. The girl in 12F had demonstrated her authority and earned respect in a way that could not be ignored. Their perception of her had been forever transformed. Rachel leaned over, whispering, "You've completely changed the way everyone on this plane sees you." Emily smiled faintly. "Perception is secondary. What matters is that respect is earned, and recognized, that mastery is visible, and that leadership is demonstrated through results. Everything else is irrelevant." The F-22s performed one final synchronized flyby, engines roaring, precision undeniable. Emily lifted her hand slightly in acknowledgement, calm and poised. Passengers recorded and marveled, understanding that what they were witnessing was something extraordinary. Her legacy, built through years of dedication, training, and leadership, was now visible to everyone on the flight. The Valkyrie had returned, commanding respect not through words but through presence, skill, and earned authority. The roar of the F-22 fighter jets outside the airplane window was deafening, but Emily Carter, seated in 12F, remained the picture of calm authority. Each maneuver the jets performed reflected precision, discipline, and unwavering respect, the culmination of years of training that she had imparted to the pilots who now executed every twist, loop, and roll flawlessly. Passengers were on their feet, leaning toward the windows, mouths agape, phones raised to capture the spectacle. The air in the cabin crackled with disbelief, admiration, and silent awe. Rachel, still seated beside Emily, whispered, "I've never seen anything like this. Even in movies, nothing compares." Emily's gaze remained fixed on the formation outside. "This is not about spectacle," she said quietly. "It is about mastery, trust, and the results of disciplined training. Respect is earned and recognition follows naturally when it is deserved." The lead F-22 performed a perfect vertical climb, disappearing momentarily into the clouds before returning in flawless alignment with the plane. The other jets executed synchronized loops, banking and rolling in near-impossible coordination. Every movement reflected the discipline and trust Emily had instilled in her pilots. Their precision a testament to years of meticulous instruction. A passenger whispered to his companion, "I don't think anyone on this flight expected a teenager to command this kind of respect." Emily allowed herself a faint smile. "It is not about age. Authority is a product of skill, preparation, and earned trust. Those outside are saluting the discipline and mastery that make their actions flawless." The teens who had mocked her earlier were now silent, staring at the scene in disbelief. One muttered, She's Valkyrie, isn't she?" "Yes," Emily replied softly. "That call sign represents more than a name. It represents excellence, trust, and leadership. Recognition comes to those who earn it through dedication and skill." Rachel nudged her gently. "They're performing a perfect final formation. Everyone is watching you, recording everything. You've changed the way they see you completely." Emily remained composed. "Perception is secondary. What matters is demonstrated mastery, the trust of those you lead, and the respect that naturally follows. Everything else is incidental." The lead F-22 hovered in alignment with the plane window and saluted Emily. She returned the salute flawlessly, her hand steady and commanding. The passengers gasped, some clapping, others frozen in awe. The gesture required no words, yet it conveyed everything: authority, respect, and acknowledgement of mastery. The jets performed the final, synchronized loop. Smoke trails left geometric patterns in the air as the planes maneuvered in perfect unison, highlighting the extraordinary skill behind every movement. A young girl seated across the aisle whispered, "I can't believe how calm she is. She's commanding the sky without even speaking?" "Yes," Emily replied. "True leadership is silent. It is measured in results, not volume. Mastery speaks for itself." The cabin remained spellbound as the jets continued their display. Parents whispered to their children, "That is how skill earns respect. Age doesn't matter. Discipline does." Teens who had once laughed at Emily now looked on in awe, recording the event on their phones. Rachel whispered, "Even the pilots themselves are executing your instructions flawlessly. You've trained them to trust you implicitly." Emily nodded slightly. "Trust is built over time. Recognition is a natural outcome. What you see is the culmination of preparation, skill, and leadership demonstrated consistently." The captain's voice came over the intercom, calm but authoritative. "Ladies and gentlemen, as we prepare for landing, please take note of the rare display you are witnessing. The passenger in seat 12F is receiving a salute from highly trained Air Force pilots. This is a tribute to skill, leadership, and earned respect." Emily returned her notebook to her bag. Her calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the excitement in the cabin. She didn't seek attention. She had earned it through decades of dedication, training, and mastery. The F-22s performed one final synchronized flyby, engines roaring, wings flashing in perfect alignment with the plane. Emily lifted her hand in a subtle salute. Passengers erupted in applause, some standing, others recording quietly, all silently acknowledging the extraordinary display of authority and skill. Rachel whispered, "They're never going to forget this flight." "Not a single person." Emily nodded. "Memory fades, but respect for mastery and leadership endures. That is what matters. What you have witnessed today is the result of dedication, precision, and trust, and that is timeless." The teens who had mocked her earlier now approached, hesitant but respectful. I'm sorry for doubting you," one said quietly. You really are amazing." Emily looked at them calmly. Mistakes are part of learning. Recognition and respect come when skill and discipline are demonstrated. Remember that for your future. Outside, the lead F-22 performed a slow loop and saluted one final time. Emily returned it with calm precision. The moment was more than ceremonial. It was symbolic. Authority, mastery, and respect had been recognized fully. The sky itself seemed to acknowledge her presence, the jets forming a tribute to her decades of training, discipline, and leadership. Passengers stood in awe, cameras still recording, hearts racing. They had witnessed something extraordinary, a teenage girl in seat 12F, commanding respect from the most elite pilots without ever raising her voice. Rachel leaned over once more. You've completely redefined what it means to be a leader. Even at your age, everyone on this plane will be talking about this for years. Emily smiled faintly. Leadership is not about being noticed. It is about preparation, mastery, and the trust of those who follow you. Today they have seen it clearly. That is enough. The plane began its descent, the F-22s peeling away, but maintaining perfect form until they reached the horizon. Emily lowered her hand, calm, confident, and composed. Passengers slowly settled back into their seats, some still recording, others simply staring at the sky. They had been part of something historic. Something beyond words. Lee Carter, the Valkyrie, had demonstrated that true authority comes not from age or appearance, but from dedication, skill, and the trust of those who follow your guidance. The girl in 12F had commanded the sky, and no one would ever forget it. As the aircraft landed and passengers disembarked, whispers of admiration and awe followed her. She had earned their respect, demonstrated mastery, and left an indelible mark on everyone who witnessed her power. The Valkyrie had returned, commanding, silent and unforgettable.